Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
Hey, how's it going?
There he is. You going good, and yourself?
Doing well. Happy post-Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Did you have a nice one?
We did. Went to some family in Orange County, California. Had some. Went for like a nice hour ride. Just piled on the turkey and the veggies and just went to town.
Good for you, man.
Jokingly told everyone carbs don't exist today.
Yeah, that's good. I wish I could say the same. I definitely indulged in many carbs yesterday. So hence the workout this morning, and just getting things back in order here.
Awesome.
Yeah, excited to be on your show and speak with you.
Yeah, I bought your book and read it and everything. It helped me out so much recently too.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm glad that it helped you, and thank you for making the investment in yourself to care about your sleep. So it'll give us a lot to talk about here on the show.
Definitely. Yeah. I just have one question. You mentioned it throughout the episode, your book, but I couldn't tell the difference. Is the book like the course you offer on your site, or is the book more of like a gateway to the more in-depth detail stuff?
Yeah, it's more of a gateway.
Okay.
Yeah. What we do at Sleep Science Academy is very comprehensive. The book is pretty surface level, believe it or not. I try to keep it that way, keep it simple for people. But when we work with clients, we go very deep into a lot of different areas. A lot of them were covered in the book, but we just go much deeper into strategies, tools, techniques, and support. So the book is really just kind of the first step into a much broader and deeper realm of understanding why people can't sleep and how to improve it. But a lot of people buy the book and it helps them. And that's obviously why I wrote the book. And then for those people that are needing more additional support or want to go deeper, then obviously that's where we have our 8-week program with coaching and the technology and all the things that we use.
That's awesome. Yeah. For me, it was the winding down. Like I've always turned off my phone before bed, like an hour or two before I know I'm going to bed, but it was the extra winding down. Really,
Yes.
I'm almost falling asleep on command now.
It's amazing. Well, share that in the podcast. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that people make a mistake is they take their day into their night. And so our brain is not a computer, even though we treat it like that. And there's a lot of similarities. It needs time to decompress. There needs to be a clear ending to your day and a clear starting to your night. And I'm glad that helped. Was there anything else that stood out to you that really you implemented and noticed a difference?
The only one I noticed, but you never said you were against it, was the use of melatonin.
Yeah, we can totally talk about that.
Okay.
I think melatonin is a great antioxidant, but as far as from like a research standpoint, there isn't really any research that shows that it's actually beneficial for sleep or sleep quality. Most cases, it can help you fall asleep faster, but then usually it ends up people waking up after that sort of initial sleepiness onset happens. It's a hormone. It's regulated in the EU. It's not regulated here. There's a lot of controversy on it. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think there's a lot of other things you can take that would be more beneficial, and literally from the research side of standpoint versus melatonin. For whatever reasons, melatonin is just the most popular sleep supplement. And so I'm not really for it. I think that there is a place for melatonin. It is an amazing antioxidant, but for sleep purposes, I think there's a lot of other better supplements that you could use to help.
Yeah. For me, I currently work night shift. I'm fighting tooth and nail to get out of it. And that was the biggest one I noticed in your book. I'm like, yep, I'm really screwing a lot of things up with this. So,
wow. What do you do? What has you working the night shift? What type of line of work are you in?
So I work at a local grocery store on the janitor.
Okay.
So
Cool.
I'm the guy that makes the store look pretty by the time it opens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Most,
So,
yeah.
so yes, if you can switch from the night shift to the day shift, that would be a massive impact on your quality of life,
Oh,
guaranteed.
I
Yeah.
noticed it. The earlier this year, we went up to Washington State for like a family vacation, and
Yeah.
I was off for a week, so I was actually excited. I'm like, I can sleep at night, kind of thing. The craziest thing, once I like my body knew 2 days later, oh, we're going back to nighttime. I didn't even need melatonin anymore. I was just
Wow.
falling asleep. Boom, right there.
Yeah. So for you, I mean, if you are a night shift worker, um, there's a lot of strategies around that. It's really challenging. Like actually in our academy, we always say, hey, listen, come like do everything you need to do to not work the night shift and then come back to us if you're still having an issue, because it is that challenge. It is
Oh, it's
making it
huge.
very hard. I'm
That's
sorry.
honestly, it's a huge hindrance. It's not normal for the human body.
No, it isn't. So, but there are things like wearing glasses as soon as you leave, or, if the sun is up, you could use some supplementation, making sure your room's cold and dark, blackout shades, um, trying to keep a schedule as much as possible when you're not working.
Yes,
So there's a lot of things you can do, but at the end of the day, it's challenging.
it
Yeah.
is. This is the one thing we all joke about because there's like 5 of us for the crew, and we all say we've gone. Some of them are like, I've gone with the company 20 years like this. I'm like, so you've pretty much not slept for 20 years. And they're like, pretty much.
Yeah, it's tough. That is a tough thing to do. It's just not natural. It's kind
It,
of like you're swimming upstream when it's so much easier to swim downstream. And
yeah.
it's like, but yeah, so I would say keep doing whatever you have to do in order to shift that. That would be a massive step in the right direction for your sleep for sure.
Yeah. I'm doing everything I can. My hope, my plan is to be done within 6 months. I have everything lined up and then I can just transition out. But
Fantastic.
so um, I'm loving this already. Devin, can you just give us a quick synopsis of who you are?
Yeah. Yeah. So Devin Burke, founder of Sleep Science Academy. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, and essentially I help people sleep all across America who have chronic insomnia, either onset or maintenance insomnia. And yeah, I'm a guy that's really passionate about helping people solve their sleep because I know how important it is. It's the foundation that extraordinary health is built on. It helps our mental performance, our physical performance. There's so many benefits to quality of sleep. And yeah, for me, I'm a curious person. I love to learn things. And people ask me all the time, hey, did you have a sleep issue? Was that why you got into helping people the way that you did? And I actually am an amazing sleeper.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So it was actually someone else that I was working with that had the sleep issue and asked me, hey, can you help me? And I had studied nutrition and psychology and exercise physiology. And I was a lot of different coaching techniques. And I just never studied sleep. And then I started to get into it. And I was like, wow, there's something here. It's a huge problem, not a lot of good solutions. And I figured, well, let me continue to learn about it. And the more I learned, the more interested I got. And then I started to take the other things that I was learning from my previous educational experience, and I started to tweak it to really help people specifically with their sleep. And yeah, it's been really fun. It's been really fun learning, going deep into a specific area versus going a little bit before I was going a little bit wide. But it's one of those things that I think that when people realize how important it is, and then they start to experience, like yourself, you start to get better sleep, you start to really feel better, and then that can kind of change the other trajectory of your day, all the things that you do. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, whether it's your relationships or whether it's your performance at work, your creativity, I always say, you optimize the 1/3 of your time in bed to really make the other 2/3 extraordinary.
Oh,
And
100%.
it's not wasted time that way. Because a lot of times people think, well, sleep is a waste of time because nothing's happening or I'm not being productive, when the complete opposite is true and can be true. You can really start to learn how to pull some levers to make that time worthwhile.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's one. Actually, I have a mentor call every Thursday, and one of them, now granted, it was a big client, so he was up for like 2 days pretty much, but he's like, I can't go to sleep, and literally I just sat there. I just typed in your book. I'm like, look this thing up. It's going to tell you exactly why you're not performing well.
Yeah.
And then so he bought it, and then it was like, this is serious, 2 weeks. So, and then he comes back and he's like, Josh, like my game is like so much better. I'm like, he's like, because I prioritize sleep. I'm like, hey, tell Devin that, not me.
I appreciate it, Josh. Hey, thank you so much for spreading the message. I mean, that's why I'm meeting with you today, is because I think that more people need to hear this message and also
100%.
get the tools, because it's simple. It's not always easy.
Yes. No, that's very true. So I do have actually a side question from your book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said you bought a one-way ticket to the EU. I forgot which country. Amsterdam. Why one-way ticket?
Yeah, so I had got accepted to a doctoral program. I was going to become a physical therapist. That's really what I went to school in. My undergrad was in exercise physiology. And so I had gotten into a doctoral program, and I had about 6 months before I was actually set to start. And so never been to Europe. Both my older brothers did Euro trips, and they came back with all these stories, and I always wanted to do it. So I said, you know what, let me buy a one-way ticket, just go for as long as I can go or want to go, exploring and just checking out Europe. And then when I'm either run out of money or when I'm ready, then I'll buy a plane ticket back, whether that's in, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it was. And so it ended up being about I think it was either 2.5 or 3.5 month trip. I believe it was 2.5.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, that was having that time to reflect on my life and really think about things on long train rides and just being exposed to different types of people and culture changed what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I didn't really know what that was going to look like, how I was going to do it. But that was definitely a catalyst to me opening up possibility for what the future might look like.
Okay. Yeah, when I read that, I'm like, one-way ticket. He didn't even buy those, like, you bought the ticket and then eventually cash it in kind of thing. Just went for it. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. And I didn't have that much money. I was just, really out of college. I was working an internship. I actually I had a motorcycle that I sold. And I took the money for the motorcycle to buy the ticket. And that was also the money that kind of allowed me to go and just explore. But staying in hostels, eating the cheap street food. It was not a luxurious trip. I got to stay with a couple of friends that I had met over the years in different places, which was nice. But it really was, traveling is an amazing opportunity to learn about yourself.
Oh,
I didn't realize really what it meant to be an American until I was not in America for several weeks, and really seeing these other cultures and seeing the beautiful parts of these cultures, and also seeing the other side of the cultures. And I came back with a real appreciation for being born here and being a citizen. And definitely America is far from perfect. And it's beautiful and it's such an amazing opportunity just to be a citizen here. I mean, really, it's like,
it really is. Like this one lady was arguing with me about the whole, the Finland system's better than ours. I'm like, really? I'm like, but let's just say hypothetically, I don't know their system. In Finland, they might censor you for saying stuff. In America, you're allowed to say it. Now, will social ramifications kick in? Probably, but it was your right as an American to say that. Other countries,
yeah, freedom. I mean, there is no other place in the world where you have as much freedom, and hopefully it stays that way. So that's so that's my. I'm a believer in. I'm pro freedom. I mean, give people freedom. That's I think that's. We don't have to get into politics here, but I believe the more freedom people have, the better. I mean, obviously there needs to be rules. There needs to be,
structure,
but as much freedom within that structure, I think, is really what makes things drives humanity, or at least drives innovation, and can create just beautiful way of life. It
really does. Yeah, I would just stay in that because I'm like, this is what she said. I'm like, yeah, but there is a chance that they could get you in trouble for that. So I wouldn't be talking like that. So for your book, can you, for those who are listening in and they're already like 20 minutes in, they're like, what's going on with this guy? Can you explain to people the nuances and the goals with that book that you've pretty much stated in it, all the books and what we just did, but more of like a quick synopsis?
Yeah. I mean, really the book is a step-by-step guide to improve your sleep. And the reason I wrote it was because a lot of the books that I was reading were either really based in science, and they were very technical, and they really got into the studies and the science around sleep, but then they weren't very practical. And so I was hoping to take just enough of the science to help people understand how important it is, and then give people just simple practical tools that they could take action on. That was the whole purpose behind it, is to give people what they need without a bunch of fluff. It's not a long book. It's just like, hey, here's a step-by-step. If you do these things, you're going to notice an improvement. Here are some of the things that I found through my personal experiments, as well as my studies, that I found to be useful, and that are useful for other people that implement them at Sleep Science Academy. So really the idea behind it was give people a tangible tool to understand how to improve their sleep. And also hopefully inspire people to understand that sleep is not a waste of time, which is really the purpose of the TEDx talk that I did, was real around the ROI of sleep. What's the return on investment on, protecting, prioritizing your sleep? Mm-hmm. I was ignorant. I didn't know how important sleep was. I took it for granted. And so anyway, long story short, the book is designed in such a way that anyone can gain value from it, whether you're somebody who's struggling with sleep or somebody that just wants to improve their performance. They'll learn some tools and techniques and perspectives to really implement, which will improve their sleep, health, and life.
Your one story with Jake, I believe it was, the investment banker that lost his edge because of sleep.
Yep.
That one was impressive.
Yeah, there's so many stories. Literally, I could tell you, we could just talk about some of these other stories.
Okay.
Because there are so many stories of people that we've been able to help, and their stories are sometimes inspiring and sometimes they're sad. And people from all walks of life have sleep issues. Everyone sleeps, right? And so it's one of those things where that story was really meant to connect people to a truth. And the truth is, when you're not prioritizing yourself, everything suffers. Everything. And it's so simple to forget to put yourself first. Mm-hmm. Because we get lost in the doing of, a corporate job or a family, or just trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever it is.
Right.
And then we end up paying the price later, and it's in the form of dis-ease. And that dis-ease can show up as a lot of different things. It can be diabetes, it can be insomnia, it can be heart disease, cancer. I mean, it can be a lot of things. So that particular story really was around someone who had prioritized his professional life and really was somebody who was burning the midnight oil, didn't prioritize and protect it, kept kicking the can down the road, making excuses, and then in the end, it bit him in the ass. And so, hopefully we can learn from other people's mistakes. I mean, that's really, everyone's actually. I don't think there are mistakes. There's just learnings.
Correct.
And we can learn from other people, and we can learn what to do and what not to do, or we can turn a blind eye and keep doing what we're doing, and then usually experience something painful or uncomfortable, when those things can be totally avoided just from keeping an open mind and keeping your eyes open and asking questions and really understanding that, our time here is limited, and you don't have to make all the mistakes, because there's a lot of other people that have gone, just even I'm sure in your vicinity of friends and family, that you can see they're doing these certain things, and then you can see the consequences of those decisions. And it's like, okay, well, that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want my life to be like. Let me decide something else. And then let me find somebody that can help guide me to a different way, a different perspective.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so true. The one thing you mentioned was the coffee, and I was like, oh no, I like coffee though. And then I got later on, I'm like, okay, never mind.
Yeah. So coffee, the thing about coffee, I love coffee. Coffee is an amazing antioxidant. We're talking about melatonin, amazing antioxidant. A cup of coffee isn't going to harm your sleep. It's when you drink that cup of coffee, and so caffeine blocks adenosine. Adenosine is the neurochemical that builds up, that causes sleep pressure, makes us sleepy. So really just understanding that when you have a cup of coffee, that's really what's most important, is the timing and the amount, obviously. I mean, if you're drinking a pot of coffee, probably not the best, right?
I was doing that at one point. I couldn't figure out why I was sleeping, so I kept drinking more coffee, and I couldn't figure out why I was sleeping.
Yeah, sometimes it's like the most obvious thing, but we don't put two and two together just because, it's not in our awareness, or we're used to doing certain things. And, but yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of coffee. I love, the taste of it, the ritual of it. I love tea as well. Yeah. And, tea has some amazing health benefits too, but caffeine, outside of just coffee, it's really the caffeine, and caffeine is in a lot of things. It's in chocolate. It's in, the energy drinks. It's in a lot of these things that we don't even realize that the caffeine is what can become an issue. It's a drug, caffeine
it's a legal drug.
Yeah, it really is. And it is addictive, because it is, it gives you energy, and it can be habit forming. And so you just have to use it in moderation. I think I don't think anything is really, if you can overdo anything, right? Even a good thing. Yeah. So it's just knowing when and how to use something, I think, is really important.
Yeah. I remember a story my grandfather told me. This one kid in the 70s was just munching on carrots every day, all day. That's all he would eat. And he's like, he did it for like a week. And then suddenly on the second week, he just turned orange like a carrot.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you look like those freaking Oompa Loompas.
Yep. I forget why. I'm sure there's a term for that, but yeah, too much of a good thing, whether it's carrots or coffee or, anything good is it's really around, moderation is an important thing to practice.
It is. So one thing I do want to ask, I've kind of just picked this up on my own, but you might have more science on it, is like for coffee, I'm told you get a 2-hour peak energy window, but there's an 8-hour half-life of it. Is that kind of true? Or is there more of a different stat?
Yeah. So I love what you're asking. So it really depends. And it depends on how fast you metabolize caffeine. Okay. So you can actually, if you get I believe a 23andMe test or one of those genetic tests, I think it comes standard, but you might have to run it through another sort of pattern to identify this, but they'll tell you what type of caffeine metabolizer you are. And so if you're somebody who metabolizes caffeine fast, obviously the onset's going to be quicker versus slower. And the half-life, depending on the person, can be between 6 and 8 hours. So that means it's in your system for, 12 to potentially 16 hours. So there is that residual effect. So, I'm a big believer in, you can either just test it, or you can guess and kind of play that guessing game and experiment. But there are tests now that can kind of show you, hey, this is the type of and mostly people know. Like for me, I know. Like if I have a little bit of caffeine, I'm like,
you're wired.
I'm wired, man. Like I'm like, oh, like if I have too much, I start to feel like anxious. The other day, I had a cold brew coffee.
Ooh.
Which is so delicious. And I was right before I was going to exercise. I wanted to get use it as a booster, but it was so strong that it actually gave me like heart palpitations and a little bit of anxiety. So I'm like, oh my God, too much. Right. So yeah, knowing yourself and knowing how much caffeine is definitely a good place to start.
Yeah. For me, that's where I picked up on the 8 hours. I think it was my sister that mentioned to me, that's when I was drinking the pot of coffee. And she's like, Josh, you do realize like there's like an 8 hour half-life to this. I'm like, I'm all wired out. My eyes are like twitching like crazy, like a cartoon. I'm like, what?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's, you get the jitters. A trick. This is, I do share this with some of our clients, not in the book, but using mushrooms, putting mushrooms into coffee actually helps buffer the jitters, or L-theanine. I do talk about L-theanine in the supplement section of the book, but L-theanine is amino acid, and what it does is it helps sort of buffer the caffeine, and it's not so you get more of a sustained focus without the jitters. Same with reishi. You can put reishi mushroom or chaga or cordyceps. Those are like the three that you can add.
Do I just make my cup of coffee and just drop a shiitake mushroom in?
And no shiitake. No, there's specific mushrooms, like the adaptogen mushrooms. So shiitake, they're extremely healthy.
They are.
Any type of mushroom is extremely healthy. The specific medicinal mushrooms, like reishi is one of them. They call that, I believe, the king of the forest. Chaga is another one. These are extremely health promoting mushrooms. The other mushrooms are like good, healthy. These are like, you can use these actually they use them in Japan to help people heal from cancer. So it's just good to have these in your body, regardless of if you're putting it in your coffee. But it is nice when you do add it into your coffee to kind of buffer out that sort of jittery, anxious feeling. And that's what I do. I put some mushrooms in my coffee to help.
I'm sitting here, imagine you just taking a whole head of mushrooms, just put it in your coffee and just keep stirring.
Yeah, it comes in powder, it's a combo powder. And there's a couple great companies out there. Four Sigmatic is one that's pretty popular right now. The Real Mushrooms, I like their products. And actually a client of mine now created a functional beverage with coffee and mushrooms in it. It's called Odyssey. And it's pretty cool. So they're in the ready to drink category. So you don't have to mix anything, just crack open the can and you drink it. But mushrooms definitely is something that's going to continue to be a trend in the wellness space for the next foreseeable future, just because of the benefits of it.
I would say, especially with our ancestors, how they were hunter-gatherers, mushrooms were everywhere. So they probably were just like, well, we can't find a deer today, so we're going to eat this instead.
Yeah, and sometimes that worked out, and sometimes it didn't.
There was
sometimes they ended up seeing
Jesus
tripping.
himself.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I'm a huge. I love to read. I have hundreds of books, and one of the books that I read last week was on mushrooms. And I'm looking on my. Where is it? It's called The Psilocybin Mushrooms of the World. And it's very interesting book, but it's essentially how do you identify psilocybin mushrooms?
Okay.
Very interesting. I heard this guy, Paul Stamets, he's the sort of the mushroom guru. He wrote the book, and I'm into, mycology and all that. So I was like, let me check this out. So I read this book on psilocybin mushrooms, which are the mushrooms that will have you hallucinate if you eat too many of them. So anyway, yeah.
I was the one thing. Have you been following Mike Tyson recently on his stuff?
No, but I'm a fan of Mike for
So
sure.
what he's been doing lately, he started his own whatever brand, but he also started a mushroom, like he calls them healing mushrooms, but
Oh
it's
wow.
the high psilocybin stuff. So he was on an interview and they pull out 4 grams of mushrooms and he just started wolfing them down. And everyone's sitting here like he's gonna have this is casual conversation with Jesus in a minute.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan. To be honest, I think that used with the proper set and setting and in the right ways, they are healing.
Oh, they are. They
For
really
sure.
are.
I think they get a bad rap. There's the other book that I was reading that literally 2 weeks ago is How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan, which is all about psilocybin and some of these plant medicines that have been used for thousands of years for healing purposes. Actually, I think that's maybe where I got the book recommendation for the identifying. So,
Like he mentioned it, kind
he
of thing.
mentioned it, and then it's like one thing led to the other. But yeah, something. This is I haven't shared this with anybody. I'll just share it here.
Okay.
That I'm interested in seeing how to use what the effects would be for people that have insomnia using psilocybin in the right ways.
Right.
I think there could be some real benefits to specific use of helping people with sleep challenges using psilocybin in the right dose and the right set and setting. I think in the future that might be an area that I'll explore, because a lot of the people that come to us are on all different types of heavy medication, Xanax, clonazepam. They're taking, Zolpidem, which is, Ambien. They're taking all kinds of different things. And these drugs are not good.
They're not.
They're not. They have really strong side effects. Usually they're habit forming. And there's a time and a place for medication. By no means am I anti-medication, but I think there's better medications, more natural, less harmful, that exist, that can help people have a sustained shift and not need to rely on continuing to take them. And I think that in the future, psychedelics will be more available, and also will be able to be helping people with sleep issues specifically. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
I think we're going into a renaissance of changing that. I see it too, but it's one of those. There's not many people you can just catch. I think mushrooms are going to change the world. They're going to be like, "What the fuck are you on?"
Yeah, you're on some mushrooms. Yeah. There's a great documentary. I think it is something along the lines of mushrooms can change the world. The guy Paul Stamets, I believe it's his documentary. I'm drawing a blank on the name. But literally he believes that mushrooms can change the world, and it's pretty compelling. The documentary. Gosh, what's the name of it? I'm not sure. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's interesting. Very interesting documentary.
Yeah, the one, like I was on TikTok for a while, and then I realized I was just a complete FOMO, kept scrolling, so I got off. But one of them, like this lady brought up mushrooms, and she's like, and like us, if done correctly, your mind will actually open up gateways you never knew that were there, and you'll find old pains, and actually be able to remend it and fix it. But in any other circumstances other than meditation, you will never be able to achieve this. And that's where I sat there and I'm like, interesting. And I had some leftover like edible THC, like 5 gram, not 5 grams. She said that would be insane. 5 milligrams. And I would just take one, and I finished them off, and I realized, like, at the end of the week, I'm like, well, I'm not anxious anymore. Like, my old wounds from as a kid, it feels like it's gone now. I'm like, there might be something to this. I also might have just been like accepting it. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Again, and I think it's there's definitely a place for using some of these drugs, quote unquote, as medicines. It's You're not the first person actually that shared that with me specifically about marijuana.
Mhm.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I think that mental health, using these medicines properly in the right way, can really help people's mental health accelerate years of what
Damage gone.
damage. Yeah, just be able to clear it out and allow people to be more free, which ultimately that's the goal. At least that's my goal,
Yeah,
is to experience more freedom and help other people also experience more freedom in their life, in
good.
their health, in their life, in their sleep. It's yeah, it's that's what we all want, right? We all want to feel free. We all want to feel joy, happiness. We all want to, wake up and be excited. We want to feel loved. These are like human desires that
Yeah,
everyone, wants. And yeah, so it's interesting.
it
It'll be
is.
interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, for me, so as a younger age, when I was like, I think eight-ish, for like first or second grade, 8-year-old kid, spastic, full of energy. They were like, "Oh, he's schizophrenic. He's going from happy to angry to happy to this."
Mm,
And I mean, I was 8 years old. I barely knew what my emotions were, kind of thing.
yeah.
And so I was on a nasty regime of big pharma stuff because essentially school told my parents, and they didn't have the internet the way it is today, that
Mm,
essentially he's either medicated or he's out.
wow. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
So, I'm now, whenever I can, I try to preach against drugs, but that's the one thing a lot of people are like, "Oh, you got off your drugs, like then anyone can do it." I'm like, no, there are generally broken people who do need these medicine, but it's not as often as big pharma wants you to think.
Yeah. It's the first thing that people go to, and it's the whole model is a little bit messed up. It's not the doctor's fault. That's how the doctors are trained. It is big pharma, and it's a
Mhm.
huge business. And it's a shame because yes, medicine is incredible when it's needed and used, and thank God we have medicine,
Mhm.
but it's overprescribed, and there's a lot better alternatives out there. And usually it's just a band-aid that it doesn't address the root cause. It's oftentimes just a band-aid, and band-aids are meant to be used temporarily.
Right.
Um,
It gives you some
so
protection, but inevitably you have to take it off to let it go.
yeah, yeah, and that's really what we do at Sleep Science Academy. We help people address the root cause of their sleep issues versus using band-aids like medicine or you know supplements or whatever they think they need in order to sleep. Everyone's has a natural ability to sleep. What often happens is people's minds get in the way of their bodies doing what their bodies are designed to do, which is sleep. And so when you remove the barriers from the mind, it allows the body then to do what it knows how to do. And sometimes there are physiological barriers as well that need to be removed. Oftentimes, it's really the barriers are in the mind.
And usually it's barriers that were taught to us and we didn't even realize was that.
That's right. It's like the movie The Matrix.
Mhm.
There's these programs that run, and a couple of the ones that we see often. We work with a lot of high performing people, doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, business people. Also, we work with grandmas and moms
That's
as well.
awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. It's fun. There's some patterns that people fall into that I've noticed over the years. It's perfectionism, people that try to perfect their sleep, people that believe that it's a problem that needs to be solved, which is a bit of a tricky one. And then there's people that put it on a pedestal and then they, if only I had sleep, then everything in my life would be better. And it's tricky because that's true. But believing that puts more pressure on it to sleep. And sleep is not something that you can force or control. And the more you try to sleep, actually, the worse you sleep, because sleep is something that you have to allow to happen. You have to let go of trying to do anything in order to sleep. Like just sleep will come if you create the right conditions for it to come.
Correct.
And so, so there's all kinds of, programs and patterns I think that we need to identify in order to really, so it's almost like, Josh, I think we need to forget a lot of the stuff that we've learned.
That's what I've been coming to realize too. A lot of stuff that we've been taught, we need to like somehow remember, either discard it or get rid of, put like a barrier, like don't go there.
Yeah, because it's not useful. And often our thoughts are not our thoughts. And this was really interesting for me as I started this type of work, is really noticing that people have the same thoughts, and that tells me that they're not their thoughts. Mm-hmm. So it's not, I don't want to get into like metaphysics here, but it's, there are social programs that tell us that we're not enough and that we need to buy things, for instance, in order to feel good. So that creates consumerism. Like it's Black Friday when we're recording this. So it's like, buy this new shirt and you're going to, feel better about yourself.
You'll stick into a group and you'll be fashionable and everyone will be like
your friend.
Yeah, your friend. It doesn't work though. I was on that train for the longest time. I spent thousands of dollars. Nothing happened.
Yeah, it's not, you can't, it's, that's the illusion or the delusion. It's consumerism. And that's people are trying, when they feel like the program is, if I have more, then I am more, which is complete BS. And then there's so many other programs I think that run that are just not useful. Like I'm broken or something, or I'll never be able to, this is the way it always will be, or this is the way, there's all these, a lot of us have these thoughts, these patterns, these beliefs that are just so negative and just keep us stuck. And a lot of the work we do at Sleep Science Academy is to help people identify those thoughts and beliefs and shift them and really see the truth. Because until you can see the truth, most of us only focus on one side of the truth. And then we negate the other side. And then we're limited in our ability to change or grow or make progress.
That's good. No, that's very true. It's one thing as I've been reading books and opening my mind. I joke with my father because I know he's not going to change, because he'll say something with an extra sting and negativity intended, and I'm like, dude, very negative, bad for you. And I jokingly like slap him on the shoulder, like, stop that, bad Bruce, kind of thing.
It's good, hope. It's whenever you can help somebody, and using humor is a great way of doing that. See, how they're being. I think it's you're doing them a real service, because there's, again, it's stinking thinking gets in the way, and it's not helpful.
So I have a question for you, being the sleep guy. You probably will have studied this. What is the correlation to dreams to what you're currently going through?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm not an expert in dreaming or dreams, but I know that dreams have tremendous amount of value. This is one of the theories, is that we're working through the emotional traumas of the day.
Interesting. Okay.
So let's say, something happened and you sort of suppressed it or didn't want to deal with it. Oftentimes those things can come into our dream. That's when our subconscious mind is sort of resolving those things. It's also when we can come up with creative problem-solving solutions. So a really high-level technique is actually you got to be careful with this, because it can keep you up.
Okay.
But if you have a challenge that you're working on and you're stuck on a problem, actually, as you're going to sleep, thinking about that problem and allowing yourself to still drift into sleep, oftentimes you will wake up with a solution. I've done workshops around the world, and I always, in my workshops, ask this question: has anyone gone to sleep with a problem, thinking about a problem, and woke up with a solution? Almost always there's someone that says, yeah, me. And then I say, well, can you share your story? And then they share this story, which is always fascinating, of, I was trying to figure out how to engineer this little piece that I couldn't figure out to finish the whatever it was, this project that I was working on. And I went to sleep thinking about it, and I woke up and I knew exactly what to do. And I was like, wow. So it is an opportunity to work out emotional traumas of the day. It's kind of like emotional first aid. You can think of it like that.
Okay.
And it's also an opportunity to really, I think, process a lot of undealt with, repressed material. So that's where we get these strange, sometimes they're sexual dreams, sometimes they're, distorted dreams about friends or family or coworkers, or, it's dreaming is fascinating. And there are people in the world that are, quote unquote experts on interpreting dreams. I've never spoken to any of them or had my dreams interpreted, but lucid dreaming is an interesting area.
That's impressive. If you can do it right, that is fun.
Yeah. Have you ever practiced, Josh?
I do it now. The reason I brought it up is when I was younger and on all that heavy shit they had me on, I would have these terrifying, like, week-long sagas or dreams of me in medieval warfare being killed left and right. And it was weird. And everything felt real too. Like if the axe hit me in the shoulder, I felt like my whole arm just got like cut off. Come to find out later on, though, it was just my arm, my chest cutting off the circulation on the inside. But
yeah, I mean, depending on, some people believe that when you're dreaming, you're like leaving your body and going into past lives and all that. I mean, how do you prove that? Is it a possibility? Sure. Do I believe that that's what's happening? I don't know.
I would say that gets to the deeper meta level. It's like, is this even real, kind of thing?
Right. I don't really go there. But I think dreaming is powerful, and lucid dreaming, for those, I think it's 20% of the population actually has the ability to naturally lucid dreaming, which, for those listening who don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially you know that you're in a dream. So you're aware that you're dreaming, and then you can sort of have access to, control within your dream, which is pretty cool. Think about it. If you think of it like this, if you're able to lucid dream, and we're asleep 1/3 of our life, that's like 1/3 of your life that you are gaining consciousness to, which is kind of interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, how I've learned that I'm dreaming or not is how my brain projects the picture of the dream to me. It's more prismatic, like a lot like clunky triangles. So like the cheek would be more squared off.
Interesting.
So that's immediately when I see that, I'm like, oh, I'm dreaming, kind of thing, because that's not actually how reality is.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, it's yeah, I think in the future there's going to be some ways of helping people that want to lucid dream to be able to do it if you don't have the ability to do it. And there are books you can read and programs online that you can buy to teach yourself to be a lucid dreamer if you're interested in that. For me, I kind of like when I go to sleep, sort of just to check out, and sometimes I remember my dreams, but it's not like something that I practice.
Right. 100%. Just curious, how long do I got you for?
So I think for an hour. So I think we're coming up here on a couple. Yeah, I got some more time.
I'm gonna say, I figure you might have some people booked out for the rest of the day too.
I do, yeah.
Then actually, I got 3 questions for you.
Yeah.
So other than work, what have you been doing to keep yourself busy during these lockdown times?
Great question. I've been getting outside as much as possible. So we recently got, I don't want to say adopted, but we have a puppy, a Bernedoodle.
Nice.
Yeah. So we got a dog. My wife's been wanting one for a long time. So training the dog, and this dog, her name's Thule. She's a mini Bernedoodle. And so we've been training her tricks, and getting a dog is amazing because you get to I met more of my neighbors within the last 6 months than I have in the last 10 years living here. And also it forces you to get outside. And so, I'm blessed to live in South Florida. So, we have pretty beautiful weather most of the year. So getting outside as much as possible. And then really, I love learning. I love to read. And so I don't really consider that work. It's even though a lot of times I am reading things that are related to sleep or sleep science or psychology or spirituality. But I just love to spend, like, for instance, yesterday I read Siddhartha, which is a book. It's a very interesting book. It's a was written in the 1920s. It's about an Indian, sort of a hero's journey of an Indian man and his life. And anyway, so that's what I enjoy doing when I'm not helping people sleep.
That's awesome. So what are some tips, tricks, or advice someone aspiring, like is inspired by you and wants to start a path like yours? Where would you point them off to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say if you really, at the end of the day, I think it's just continuing to try things and learn about things. So reach out to people that are doing things that you want to do or that you're interested in, and start to learn about them and see if you really are passionate about it. Like for me, I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. I started to work in physical therapy. I realized, hey, that's not what I want to do with the rest of my life. So then I started to explore other things. So I think experimentation, getting some good mentorship, having somebody that is doing what you want to do or is where you want to be, whether that's in your health, wealth, relationships, surrounding yourself with people that inspire you, getting connected with those people helps you find your course. And the more you invest in yourself, the more clarity you're going to get around what it is you want and how to really continue to serve people. And that's how I would direct somebody.
Awesome. So final one, where can everyone contact you at?
Sleep Science Academy, for those people that are having issues with their sleep and want to explore how we might be able to help them, or on LinkedIn, on social sites like Instagram and Facebook and all that. It's Devin Burke. So my name, Wellness. And I'm not a huge social media guy. I do put out some content on YouTube, but I try to stay off there as much as possible.
Me, same. All my other guests are like, "Why aren't you on social media?" I'm like, I get the FOMO, man. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's. I think there's a certain type of person. It's what's great about social media is you can get a message out there. It's great for businesses. That's how I use it, to reach people that have sleep issues. But for me, at least, it's overwhelming, and there's much more other areas of life, I would say, that I'd rather just spend time and energy on versus being sucked into my phone and computer. So I try to stay away from technology as much as I can, despite running an online business, and, which is kind of ironic. But yeah.
Well, it's the new playing field. Before it was in person. Now pretty much everything's online. So you got to go where everyone's at.
That's true. I think eventually there'll be a swing back where,
I think so, especially with all these lockdowns. People are going to be like, I don't care. I'll have to pay extra. I want to go to the mall.
Yeah. I mean, people are deprived of social connection, of real social connection.
True.
Everyone can hide behind their computer and say things and sort of, it's just, but we're not built. It's not natural to stand behind a computer or sit behind a computer or be behind a phone for most of your day. It's just not normal. It's
not healthy either.
Not healthy. It's not good for your sleep. It's not good for your mental health. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the world opening back up and people being able to hopefully overcome the fear of connecting with people again in person. And hopefully that's in the near future. We'll put some good energy out that is.
Perfect. I love it. Well, Devin, an absolute honor and pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, Josh, thanks for having me. And thanks for, reading the book and allowing me to be on the show and share a little bit about what I'm passionate about.
Absolute pleasure. Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're an awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome, and see you next time.